Welcome back to Park Ranger Files. I'm your host, and tonight's episode takes us deep into the Appalachian Mountains, along trails where people disappear, footsteps follow with no one behind them, and the woods seem a little too aware of who's passing through. Before we go any further, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a like if you're ready for a long night, and leave a comment telling me which trail you'd never hike alone. Your support is what keeps these stories coming. Let's begin. Story 1. I worked at support for a pharmaceutical company in Roanoke for about 6 years before I quit. The job was fine, the pay was decent, but I was 34 and felt like I was disappearing into fluorescent lighting and cubicle walls. My therapist suggested I try hiking to deal with the anxiety, said nature would help clear my head. So I started doing day hikes on weekends, nothing serious, just sections of the AT near town. This happened in late September, maybe 3 years back. I'd picked a section I hadn't tried before, starting from a trailhead off Route 311. It was a Thursday, and I'd taken a personal day because the forecast was perfect, and I knew the trail would be empty on a weekday. I wanted to be alone. I specifically wanted that. The first few hours were exactly what I needed. Cool air, leaves just starting to turn, and that smell of decay and earth that somehow feels clean. I passed one older couple around, mile marker 4, exchanged pleasantries, and that was it. Just me and the sound of my boots on dirt. I stopped for lunch around 1 p.m. at this clearing where someone had built a small cairn. I remember sitting on a flat rock, eating a turkey sandwich, and feeling genuinely good for the first time in months. The sun was warm, everything felt still in that comfortable way. That's when I noticed my phone had no signal, which was expected, but I checked it anyway out of habit. And that's when I saw the notification. A text message that had somehow come through, timestamp from 2 minutes ago, from my own number, texting. It just said, "Stop eating." I stared at it for probably 30 seconds. My first thought was that it was some kind of a glitch, or maybe someone spoofing my number as a prank. But I was looking at my sent messages and there was nothing there. Just this one incoming text. From myself. I put the phone away. Told myself it was a weird cell tower thing, a delayed message that got corrupted. I finished my sandwich because I wasn't going to let some tech bug mess with my head, but my hands were shaking a little. I packed up and kept hiking. The trail started climbing pretty steeply after that point, switchbacking up the side of a ridge. My breathing got heavy. I was focused on my feet, on the rhythm of steps. And then my phone buzzed again. I stopped, pulled it out. Another text from my number. "Don't go up. Go back now." The thing is, I still had no signal bars, none. The phone shouldn't have been able to receive anything. I actually took a screenshot, like that would somehow prove it was real. My heart was going pretty good by then. I looked around, half expecting to see someone watching me, maybe another hiker playing a joke, but there was nothing. Just trees and the empty trail above me. I don't know why I kept going. Stubbornness, maybe, or just not wanting to admit I was spooked. I told myself I'd hike another 20 minutes to the ridgetop and then turn around. The altitude would probably give me signal anyway, and I could call my buddy Dave, laugh about the whole thing. The messages kept coming. Every 5 minutes or so, sometimes less. "Please stop. You need to leave. It sees you. I'm sorry." That last one made my stomach drop. I'm sorry. Why would I be apologizing to myself? I stopped reading them after that. Just kept the phone in my pocket and kept hiking, but faster now. I wanted to get to the top, get signal, and figure out what the hell was happening. Some part of me was still trying to rationalize it. Maybe my phone was hacked. Maybe I'd clicked a bad link and someone was remotely accessing it. That had to be it. The trail leveled out as I approached the ridge. The trees thinned, I could see sky, and that's when I heard my voice. Not from my phone, from the trail ahead of me. It was me talking, having a conversation with someone, except I could only hear my half. I was saying something about work, about a project deadline, the same conversation I'd had on a call 3 days ago with my manager. Word for word. The exact same pauses, the exact same laugh when I made that joke about the server rack. I stopped walking. The voice continued. It was coming from maybe 30 yards up the trail, around a bend I couldn't see past. Just me talking casually about nothing, like I was on a phone call. Then it stopped mid-sentence. Just cut off. and a different voice started. Also mine, but younger. It was me from years ago. I recognized it from an old voicemail I had saved from when I called my mom on her birthday. I was singing happy birthday in that embarrassed way you do. But there was something wrong with it. The pitch wavered. Some of the words were stretched out too long. I turned around. I didn't run, but I walked fast, back down the trail the way I came. The voice followed, not getting closer, not getting farther, just staying the same distance behind me. And it kept changing. Me at different ages. Me from different phone calls, different conversations. Things I'd said months ago, years ago, all playing back in fragments, overlapping sometimes. My phone kept buzzing in my pocket, and I didn't look. The trail down felt longer than the trail up. I kept my eyes forward and walked as fast as I could without breaking into a run. My chest hurt. I was breathing through my mouth. The voices kept cycling through my own words, and then at some point, they started saying things I'd never said. Sentences in my voice about places I'd never been, names I didn't recognize. One of them said, "I don't think I made it down." That's when I ran. I don't remember a lot of the descent clearly. I know I fell at least once, scraped my palm pretty badly. I know the voices stopped at some point, but I don't know when. I just kept moving until I saw my car in the parking lot. There was one other vehicle there that hadn't been there before, an older sedan. And sitting on the hood was the guy, maybe late 20s, looking at his phone. When he saw me come out of the woods, he stood up. "Hey man, you okay? You look pretty shaken up." I didn't know what to say. I just shook my head and went to my car. He called out, "Yeah, I wouldn't go up there if I were you. I've been getting the weirdest messages on my phone for the last 20 minutes. I think there's something wrong with the cell tower or something." I got in my car and left. When I got home, I checked my phone. There were 43 text messages from my own number. The last one just said, "See you next time." I deleted them all. Factory reset my phone the next day. I haven't been on that section of trail since. I haven't been on any trail since, actually. Sometimes late at night, I still get a text from my number. They're always blank now. No words, just empty messages at 2 or 3 in the morning. I don't respond. I don't know what would happen if I did. Story 2. I turned 60 last April, and my daughter bought me one of those fancy trekking pole sets for my birthday. Said I needed to stay active, stay healthy. She worries. She's always worried since her mother passed. So I started hiking more regularly, mostly on the AT sections near my place in Southwest Virginia. I'm retired from teaching high school English, and honestly, the solitude suited me. I liked being out there with just my thoughts and the quiet. I usually hiked with a group from the community center on Tuesdays, but I'd go solo on Saturdays. Longer distances, my own pace. I'm slow but steady. I carried a good first aid kit, a satellite beacon thing my daughter insisted on, plenty of water. I was careful. I'm not stupid about it. This was in early November, last year. I'd parked at a trailhead near Pearisburg and planned to do an out and back, about 10 miles total. It was overcast, cold, but no rain in the forecast. I started around 8 a.m. The trail was empty, which was normal for that time of year on a Saturday morning. About 3 miles in, I found a backpack on the side of the trail, just sitting there, leaning against a tree. It was a blue North Face pack. Looked pretty new. I almost walked past it, figured someone had set it down to take a break and would be back for it. But something made me stop. I called out, "Hello? Anyone nearby? You forget your pack." No answer. Just wind in the trees. I waited a minute, then walked over to it. It wasn't dirty or damaged. The straps were still clipped. I opened the top flap to see if there was any ID, a wallet maybe, so I could report it when I got back to my car. Inside was a single item, a composition notebook, the kind kids use for school, black and white marbled cover. I pulled it out and opened to the first page. In pencil, neat handwriting. "If you're reading this, I didn't make it out. Please give this to the Rangers. My name is Sarah Whitmore, and I started hiking southbound from Rockfish Gap on October 28th. My stomach went cold. That was 9 days ago. I flipped through the pages. They were journal entries, dated, describing her hike. Normal stuff at first. The weather, the shelter she stayed at, people she met. Her handwriting was very precise, very controlled. Then, around day 4, the entries changed. She wrote about hearing footsteps behind her on the trail that would stop whenever she stopped. She wrote about finding her own belongings moved around in her pack when she knew she hadn't touched them. She wrote about seeing someone standing far off in the trees wearing her same jacket, her same hat. The last entry was dated November 2nd, 3 days ago. It said, "I don't think I'm alone in this tent. I can hear breathing that isn't mine. If I don't write anything after this, please tell my family I love them. Don't look for me. It already looks like me." The rest of the pages were blank. I stood there holding this notebook, and I had this creeping feeling like I needed to leave immediately. I took photos of the pages with my phone, then put the notebook back in the pack exactly how I found it. I was going to hike back to my car and call the police from there. But when I turned around to head back, there was someone on the trail, maybe 40 feet away. A woman, young, wearing a blue jacket and a gray beanie. She had a blank expression on her face. She wasn't moving. I said, "Are you Sarah?" My voice came out shakier than I intended. She didn't respond, just stood there, staring. I said, "I found your notebook. I was going to get help." She tilted her head slightly, like she was trying to remember how a person moves. Then she smiled, but it was wrong. Too wide, too fixed. I started backing away. I don't know why, just instinct. And as soon as I started moving, she started moving. Not walking. She sort of jerked forward in these uneven strides like her legs weren't bending right. I turned and walked fast back the way I'd come. I didn't run at first. I kept telling myself it was just a person. Maybe she was hurt. Maybe she was in shock. But when I looked over my shoulder, she was closer. Moving in that same awful, jerky way, but covering distance faster than she should have been able to. That's when I ran. I'm not in good enough shape to run far, but adrenaline does things. I made it maybe a quarter mile before I had to stop, hands on my knees, gasping. My heart felt like it was going to explode. I looked back. She was standing right there, 10 feet away. I hadn't heard her approach. Hadn't heard footsteps, breathing, anything. She was just there. Her smile hadn't changed. She said, "Thank you for finding my notebook." But the voice was off. It sounded like words being played backward and then forward again. I fumbled for my satellite beacon. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. I pressed the SOS button and just held it, staring at her. She took a step closer. "You should leave it here. The pack. Don't take it with you." I didn't have the pack. I'd left it back there. I told her that. She said, "I know. I'm still in there." Then she turned and walked off the trail into the trees. Not quickly, just a casual walk, like she was going to get water or something. I watched until I couldn't see her anymore. I didn't move for probably 5 minutes. Just stood there shaking, waiting to see if she'd come back. Eventually, I heard a helicopter in the distance. The beacon had worked. I stayed on the trail and waited for them. Search and rescue came. I told them everything. They found the backpack exactly where I'd left it. The notebook was still inside. They took it seriously, said they'd investigate. They asked if I needed medical attention, and I said no, I just wanted to go home. One of the rangers asked me to describe the woman I saw. I did my best. He went very quiet and showed me a photo on his phone. "Is this her?" It was. Sarah Whitmore, same face, same jacket. He said they'd found her body 2 days ago, about 8 miles north of where I was. Exposure, they thought. She'd been dead at least 72 hours when they found her. I don't hike alone anymore. My daughter was relieved when I told her I was joining the Tuesday group permanently. I didn't tell her why. I don't think I could explain it in a way that would make sense. Sometimes I think about that notebook, about what she wrote. It already looks like me. And I wonder if the person I saw was what she was running from, or if it was what caught her. I sold the trekking poles on eBay 3 months ago. Haven't been back to any trails since. My daughter thinks I just lost interest. That's fine. Let her think that. Before we start story 3, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment below and let me know. Have you ever felt like you were being followed on a trail when you knew you were alone? Have you ever heard your own voice coming from somewhere it shouldn't? Your support means everything to this channel. Every subscriber helps me keep bringing you these accounts. If you'd like to go further, consider donating via Super Thanks. It directly supports the research and time that goes into finding these stories. Story 3. I'm a medical illustrator, which means I spend most of my time drawing anatomical diagrams for textbooks and surgical guides. It's detail work. hours at a computer or sketching cadaver references. My wife used to joke that I'd forgotten what sunlight looked like. She wasn't entirely wrong. We lived in Asheville, North Carolina, married 8 years at that point. No kids yet, just talking about it. Rachel was a physical therapist, worked with athletes mostly. She was the outdoorsy one. She'd been trying to get me to hike with her for years, and I always made excuses. Too busy, too tired, my knees, whatever. In March 2 years ago, she finally wore me down. Said we should do an overnight trip, just one night. An easy section of the AT. Bond without screens and distractions. I agreed because I felt guilty about how much I'd been working. We picked a section near Hot Springs, planned to hike in about 6 miles to a shelter, stay the night, hike out the next morning. We started late on a Saturday around 2 p.m. Rachel had all the gear organized, good equipment. She'd done this plenty of times before. I was just following her lead. The weather was perfect, that early spring warmth where everything smells like things coming back to life. The hike in was fine. I was slower than her, out of shape, but she was patient. We talked about work, about maybe looking at houses outside the city, normal couple stuff. We reached the shelter around 6 p.m. It was empty, just a 3-sided wooden structure with a raised sleeping platform. There was a fire ring outside and a bear box for food storage. Rachel set up our sleeping bags while I gathered firewood. We cooked dehydrated meals on her camp stove, sat by the fire as it got dark. She was happy, I remember that clearly. She kept saying how glad she was that I'd finally done this with her, how we should make it a regular thing. We were in our sleeping bags by 10 p.m. The shelter was open on one side facing the trail, and I could see the fire dying down outside. Rachel fell asleep almost immediately. I lay there listening to the woods. It took me a long time to relax enough to sleep. I woke up because Rachel was sitting up. I could see her silhouette against the faint moonlight. She was completely still, just sitting there. I whispered, "You okay?" She didn't respond, didn't move. I reached over and touched her shoulder. "Rachel." She turned her head toward me, and even in the darkness, I could see her eyes were open, wide open. She said, "There's someone standing at the edge of the shelter." My heart kicked. I sat up and looked where she was looking. I couldn't see anyone, just darkness and the vague shapes of trees. "I don't see anything," I said. "Right there," she pointed. "They've been standing there for a while. I thought they'd say something eventually." I fumbled for my headlamp and turned it on. The beam cut across the empty space in front of the shelter. Nothing. No one. Rachel was still staring at the same spot. "They moved back when you turned the light on," she said. Her voice was flat, emotionless. I swept the headlamp beam across the area. Trees, shadows, empty trail. "There's nobody there, hun. Maybe you were dreaming." She didn't answer for a long moment. Then she said, "Maybe," and lay back down. I stayed sitting up for another 20 minutes, light on, watching. Nothing moved. Eventually, I convinced myself she'd been half asleep, confused. I turned off the headlamp and tried to sleep. I woke up again maybe 2 hours later. Rachel's sleeping bag was empty. I sat bolt upright. "Rachel?" I grabbed the headlamp and turned it on. She wasn't in the shelter. I called her name louder. No response. I climbed out of my sleeping bag and walked to the edge of the shelter. "Rachel, where are you?" Then I heard her voice from the trail. "I'm right here." I pointed my light toward her voice. She was standing about 20 feet down the trail, still in her sleep clothes, long underwear and a fleece. No shoes. "What are you doing?" I called. "Talking," she said. "To who?" She gestured vaguely to her left, into the trees. "To them. They want to show me something." My hands went cold. "Rachel, there's nobody there. Come back to the shelter." "Yes, there is. You're just not looking right." She started walking off the trail and into the woods. I ran after her. "Stop, please stop." I caught up and grabbed her arm. She turned to look at me, and her expression was completely blank, like she didn't recognize me. "I need to see what they're showing me," she said calmly. "Who is they?" "Rachel, you're scaring me." She pulled her arm away and kept walking into the trees. I followed, trying to keep my headlamp trained on her. She was moving fast, not looking where she was going, just walking in a straight line. Branches were hitting her face and arms. She didn't react. "Rachel, stop!" I grabbed her again, harder this time. She stopped, stood completely still. Then she said in that same flat voice, "They're all around us. They want you to see too." I looked around with the headlamp, trees, darkness, nothing. She raised her arm and pointed at something behind me. "That one looks like you." I spun around. The headlamp beam hit trees, underbrush, a fallen log. Nothing else. When I turned back, Rachel was walking again, deeper into the woods. I don't know how long I followed her. 10 minutes maybe, 15. I kept trying to get her to stop, to talk to me normally, but she just kept walking and occasionally saying things like, "They're showing me the underneath," or "It's been here longer than the mountains." None of it made sense. Then she stopped abruptly. We were in a small clearing, just a gap in the trees. She stood in the center and slowly turned in a circle, like she was looking at something I couldn't see. "Rachel, please," I was begging at this point. "We need to go back." She completed her circle and looked at me. Really looked at me. And for a second, I thought she was back. Then she said, "They want to know if you'll stay here with me. They say we can both stay. We'd be very happy here." "What are you talking about? Stay where?" "Here, in the underneath. With them." She smiled. It was her smile, but it felt wrong. Too serene. I grabbed both her shoulders. "Rachel, listen to me. We're going back to the shelter right now. You're not thinking clearly." Her smile didn't change. "I'm thinking more clearly than I ever have. They're showing me things, Daniel. Beautiful things, true things." I didn't know what to do. I was terrified. I tried pulling her back in the direction I thought the trail was, but she resisted, and she was stronger than I expected. We struggled. She kept saying I should just look, just really look, and I'd see them too. Finally, I said, "Fine, show me, I'll look. Just come back toward the trail and show me." That seemed to satisfy her. She let me lead her back through the woods. It took me almost half an hour to find the trail again. I have no idea how I managed it. The whole time, Rachel was talking quietly about colors that don't have names and sounds that happen in silence. She sounded drugged. When we got back to the shelter, I physically pushed her into her sleeping bag and zipped it up. I told her we were staying put until morning, and then we were leaving. She just smiled at me and closed her eyes. I didn't sleep. I sat at the edge of the shelter with my headlamp on, pointed at the woods until the sun came up. When dawn broke, Rachel woke up and looked around confused. "Why are we in our sleeping bags? Did we go to sleep already?" She had no memory of the night. None. She didn't remember getting up, didn't remember walking into the woods. Nothing. I told her we were leaving. She argued, said we'd planned to stay another night, but I packed our gear and started hiking out. She followed, annoyed, asking what was wrong with me. I didn't tell her until we were in the car. Even then, I didn't tell her everything, just that she'd sleepwalked and it had scared me. We got home and I convinced her to see a doctor. They ran tests, brain scans, sleep studies, everything. Nothing. She was completely healthy, no explanation. She wanted to go back to that trail, said she felt drawn to it. I told her absolutely not, and we fought about it for weeks. She became obsessed, started talking about the mountains like they were calling her, started drawing pictures of things she said she'd seen in dreams, tall figures made of shadow and branches, openings in the ground that led to rooms full of whispering. I hid her hiking gear, monitored her movements. It felt insane, controlling, but I was terrified she'd go back out there. 6 months later, she left me, packed a bag while I was at work, and disappeared. She left a note that said she was sorry, but she needed to go back, that she'd seen something real and she couldn't live without understanding it. I reported her missing. Search parties went out. They found her car at a trailhead near Hot Springs. They never found her. That was 1.5 years ago. I moved to Richmond, changed jobs. I don't draw anymore. Can't focus on it. Last month I got a postcard in the mail. No return address. It was a photo of the Appalachian Trail, just generic forest and mountains. On the back, in Rachel's handwriting, "I'm still here. They're wonderful. Don't worry about me, but don't come looking." I burned it. I don't know what else to do with information like that. Story 4. My name's Beth, and I've been a long-haul truck driver for 16 years. I run routes mostly up and down the East Coast, And I'm good at my job because I don't get bored easily, and I like being alone. People think it's strange for a woman to do this kind of work, especially alone. But I've never had issues. I know how to handle myself. 3 years ago, I was between relationships, living out of my truck half the time anyway. And I decided to take 2 weeks off in October. First real vacation I'd taken in years. My dispatcher thought I was joking. I wasn't sure what to do with myself at first, but I'd always been curious about the AT. I'd driven past trailheads hundreds of times and never stopped. I'm not a hiker, never have been, but I figured I could handle a few days, see what the fuss was about. I bought some basic gear at an REI, watched some YouTube videos, picked a section in Tennessee that was supposed to be moderate difficulty. I wasn't trying to thru hike or anything ambitious, just wanted to walk in the woods for a while. I started at Carver's Gap on a Wednesday morning. The plan was to hike south for 3 days, stay at shelters, then turn around and come back. Simple. The weather was clear, cool, perfect hiking weather, according to the guys at the gear shop. The first day was harder than I expected. I was carrying too much weight and my boots weren't broken in properly. Got blisters by mile 3. But I pushed through, made it to the first shelter by late afternoon. There was one other person there, older guy, maybe 70. He was friendly enough, asked where I was headed, gave me some tips about pacing. We ate dinner separately and went to sleep early. I woke up around 2 a.m. to use the bathroom. When I came back to my sleeping bag, the old man's bag was empty. I figured he was also up using the bathroom, so I went back to sleep. In the morning, he was back, already packing his stuff. He left before I was fully awake, didn't say goodbye. I thought it was a little rude, but whatever. People are weird about their space out here. Day 2 was better. My body was adjusting, I made good time, felt accomplished. I didn't see anyone else on the trail all day. Got to the second shelter around 5 p.m. and I had it to myself. Ate some tuna from a pouch, hung my bear bag, settled in. Around midnight, I woke up to voices, quiet voices, like people trying not to wake someone. I opened my eyes and saw 2 headlamps outside the shelter. 2 hikers, a man and a woman, young, in their 20s probably. They were whispering about whether to stay at the shelter or keep hiking. I sat up and said, "Hey, there's room if you want to stay." They both turned their lights toward me. The woman said, "Oh, we didn't see you there. Sorry if we woke you." I told them it was fine, plenty of room. They came in and set up their sleeping bags on the other end of the platform. We chatted for a few minutes. They were section hiking, had started in Damascus. Seemed nice, normal. I fell back asleep. When I woke up in the morning, they were gone. Their sleeping bags were gone. No sign they'd ever been there. I thought maybe they'd gotten up early and left, but it seemed weird they'd packed everything so quietly. I started hiking. About an hour in, I found a headlamp on the trail, just lying there in the dirt. It was still on, battery almost dead. I picked it up and turned it off, put it in my pack, figuring I'd leave it at the next shelter in case someone came back looking for it. Another hour later, I found a water bottle, then a stuff sack with a sleeping bag in it, all just scattered on the trail like someone had been dropping things. I started feeling uneasy. This was too much gear to lose accidentally. I thought maybe someone had gotten injured, panicked, dumped weight. I kept my eyes open for more people, but I didn't see anyone. Around midday, I came to a section where the trail forked. The white blazes continued to the left, but there was a faint side trail to the right. No blazes, just a worn path. And right at the fork, someone had arranged rocks in an arrow pointing right. I stood there trying to decide if this was a trail marker or something else. It looked deliberate, and I could see more gear about 10 feet down the side trail. A backpack, it looked like. I walked down the side trail. The backpack was sitting. "Stop!" "He didn't think that," she said, "but you'll never believe it. So you came here to punish yourself? To be uncomfortable, to hurt. I came here to honor him." She smiled. It was a sad smile. "No, you came here to bleed. And this place likes blood. It remembers blood. Do you know how many people have died on this trail?" I was shaking. "Please leave me alone." "Hundreds," she continued. "Over the decades, exposure, falls, heart attacks, murder, suicide. The trail remembers all of them, and some of them never left. They just keep walking, trying to reach an endpoint that doesn't exist." She took a step closer. I backed against the wall of the shelter. "Is that what you are?" I whispered. "Are you dead?" She didn't answer directly. "I was looking for my daughter. In 1982, she'd run away. Someone told me she was hiking the trail. I came to find her. I walked and walked. I never found her. And after a while, I realized I couldn't remember how to leave. The trail just loops. The same sections over and over. Different people. Same grief. That's not possible. You'll see, she said. If you stay, by the third day, you'll start to notice. The same trees repeating, the same rocks, the same birds. It's very subtle at first. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. And then you're stuck, just walking, looking for something you'll never find. I grabbed my pack, started shoving my sleeping bag into it with shaking hands. Where are you going? She asked. Back to my car. I'm leaving, right now. It's dark. You could fall. You could get lost. I don't care. I pulled on my boots without tying them properly, hoisted my pack onto my shoulders. She watched me. If you leave now, you'll always wonder. You'll always feel like you quit, like you failed him again. I stopped at the edge of the shelter. Did you really have a daughter? Her expression didn't change. I don't remember anymore. That's what happens. The trail takes your memories piece by piece until all you remember is walking, searching. I don't know what I'm searching for anymore. I just know I can't stop. I turned on my headlamp and started hiking. Back the way I'd come, in the dark. I didn't care about the risks. I just needed to get away from her. I hiked for 3 hours. I fell twice, scraped my knee badly the second time, but I kept going. When I finally saw my car in the parking lot, I almost cried with relief. The other car that had been there was gone. The lot was empty. I threw my pack in the trunk and got in, locked the doors. I was about to start the engine when I saw her, the woman, standing at the edge of the parking lot where the trail began, just standing there, watching my car. I started the engine and reversed out fast. In my rearview mirror, I saw her raise one hand, not waving, just acknowledging. I drove home. I didn't stop. I got to my apartment around 3 a.m. and carried my pack inside. I was too wired to sleep. I unpacked everything the next morning. When I got to the left front pocket where I'd kept my brother's photo, it was gone. The pocket was empty. I searched the entire pack, the whole apartment, my car. Nothing. I called the Park Service a week later, asked if there were any missing persons reports from 1982 involving a woman looking for her daughter. The ranger I spoke to said he'd checked the records. He called me back 2 days later. There was a report. A woman named Eleanor Voss had gone missing in October 1982. She'd been looking for her runaway daughter, Jennifer, age 16. Eleanor's car had been found at a trailhead near Duncannon. She was never seen again. Neither was her daughter. I asked if they had a photo of Eleanor on file. He said he'd email it to me. When I opened the email, my hands were shaking. It was her, the woman from the shelter, younger in the photo, taken from her driver's license. But the same face, the same eyes. I deleted my email account the next day. I threw away all my hiking gear. I never told my therapist what happened. Sometimes at night I think about what she said, about the trail looping, about people walking forever, searching for things they'll never find, about memories disappearing until all that's left is the search itself. I still don't have my brother's photo. I've looked everywhere. Sometimes I wonder if I ever really brought it with me at all. Sometimes I wonder if my brother is even dead, or if that's just something I remember. The trail takes your memories, piece by piece. I think about that more than I should. If these accounts disturbed you, help this channel by hitting like and subscribe. Tell me in the comments. Have you ever felt like something was following you that you couldn't quite see? Have you ever had the feeling that you were being shown something you weren't meant to understand? Your support keeps these stories coming. Every subscriber matters, and if you want to contribute further, super thanks donations directly support the time and research that goes into finding these experiences. The trail remembers everything, even the things we try to forget.